Alright, well this will be a quick introduction to vector images. I'm going to explain what they are as well as the advantages and disadvantages of them, and then we'll just take a look at what my workflow is as I create a cat comic. So first off, how is a vector image different from a normal image? Well, a normal image consists of essentially a grid of little dots that make up a picture. A vector image, however, is a set of points and curves that tell the computer how to make up an image. So, as a quick example, let's just say I sketch a box. It's quick and easy, and what you see is what you get. However, it has some limitations doing it this way. If I wanted to straighten these poorly drawn lines, I wouldn't have an easy way to do that. And if I zoom in really far, it gets really blurry. And if we put another line here, we can see just how bad this has become. Now, if I wanted to draw this box in vector, instead of dragging the cursor carefully in a desired shape, I just simply click where I want the corners to be, and then I can choose to fill it in with a color, to set the border, how thick I want it to be, so on and so forth. Since the computer is doing the work of drawing and coloring the box, there's three big advantages. We can make straight lines with ease, infinitely resize it without losing quality, and edit any of the paths in the future. So as you saw, I can quickly create shapes by adding points, but if I click and drag, I get what's known as a Bezier Curve control. This allows me to create nice smooth curves in my line. The farther I drag, the more of a curve there's going to be. Essentially, working with vectors comes down to drawing paths by clicking to add points and clicking and dragging to add curves. It might not seem natural at first, but with some practice it becomes a lot easier. Also, one thing to remember is that when you're drawing your path, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always go back and refine it later on, so just get something started. Alright, now at this point, I do want to say that vector art excels at creating illustrations that contain like lots of crisp lines, lots of geometry, things like comics, technical drawings, or like that perfect pixel art that you sometimes see. So that said, let's dive in. Alright, I'm going to be drawing a comic of a cat, and there are a lot of tools that can do this. Illustrator is probably the most popular choice, but if you don't have the money for it, Inkscape is a free, light alternative that can get you practicing and comfortable with drawing paths. I'm on a Mac, so I'm actually going to be using a tool called Pixelmator. It's significantly cheaper than Illustrator, but it does a lot of the same things. So to start, I still do this the old-fashioned way. I find that sketching ideas with a pencil and paper or a digitizing tablet is still the fastest way to go. I can sketch out a few variations without having to worry about any precision or test like basic composition, lighting, whatever. Once I'm happy with a sketch, I can take a photo of it and import it into my vector program. This will then form the base on which I try to sketch everything on top of. I choose to start with a cake since it's probably the easiest object and the one that everything kind of revolves around. Since creating the top of the cake is a simple circle, I just use the built-in elliptical tool to draw that. After that, I move on to the bottom of the cake and then to the candle. As you can see, moving on to the cat, having the guides to work on top of really makes this simple. I just start working my way around the outside until it's finished and then move on to a new item. I typically draw larger items first, like the body of the cat, and then move on to the details like the eyes and legs. It's just preference, but I find it makes managing layers a little easier later on. As you can see, I basically spent some time at the end just kind of cleaning up the lines and the curves and trying to make everything as perfect as I could. And again, you can't state this enough. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're first making it. Just get the stuff on there, and then you can refine and refine and refine in the future. Once the cat is complete, I now start to add in the shapes along the edge and then fill them in with a light gray color to simulate nice shading. When this is finished, you can export it to a PNG or a JPEG or whatever format you want. Working with vectors takes a little bit of practice, but the good news is that since drawing with a pencil and paper is something you're likely familiar with already, you get to just start there. And it's a lot less of a challenge to learn once you've essentially made a guide for yourself to just trace. And the results are certainly worth the effort. Now that's just obviously an overview, but the goal of this is just to give you a very high level overview to get you started, to get you working with vector, and hopefully you can have fun with that. So hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.